The Buffalo Soldiers. A new army. Thousands of black soldiers helped the United States gain freedom from Great Britain during Revolutionary War. More than 170,000 black soldiers helped the Northern Union Army win the Civil War in 1865. It wasn't until after this war, however, that black men were allowed to join the army during times of peace. The first peacetime regiments of black soldiers were created in 1866. Many black men who joined had served in the Union Army. Others were once enslaved people. The 38th through 41st Infantry Regiments and the 9th and 10th Cavalry Regiments were the first black regiments formed. The infantry was made up of soldiers who fought on foot, with the cavalry was made up of soldiers who rode on horses. Native people of the Great Plains gave these men the name Buffalo Soldiers. Thousands of black soldiers helped the United States gain freedom from Great After the Civil War, white leaders in South passed new laws that limited the freedom of black people. These recast laws were known as black codes. They required black people to have a job, but also limited the kind of jobs they were allowed to have. Black people had to sign work contracts for a very low pay. If they didn't, they were interest and forced to work for no pay. In 1864, the army began paying all soldiers the same, regardless of race. At most jobs, black workers were paid much less than white workers. The army was one of the few options black men had make a fair wage as soldiers. They received food, shelter, and a chance to learn how to read and write if they didn't already know how. Black soldiers faced racism in the army though. Most white soldiers didn't think black men should be allowed to serve. Some white officers wouldn't even come in black regiments. White people didn't want to arm black soldiers near their town, so black soldiers were sent to the West. Black women in war. Women weren't allowed to join the U.S. Army until 1943. Until black women have played an important role in every war in American history. Blacks like Mary Jane Richards and Harriet Tubman passed along valuable information to the Union Army during the Civil War. Tubman also acted as a guide and a scout. She went with Union soldiers during raids and platoons in the South, leading hundreds of enslaved people to freedom. A trust Josephine Baker spied on the Nazis during World War II. She passed along information through secret messages written in invisible ink. Black women had completed the war afterwards as spies, guides, nurses, doctors, and soldiers. Out west, in 18,000s, the U.S. government wanted to expand the country's western borders. This led the decisions of war between the army and native peoples. Over time, the government forced more and more native people off lands they lived on for thousands of years and to reservations were small areas of land, usually the poorest farming and hunting lands. The government also required settlers and soldiers to kill thousands of buffaloes. They knew buffaloes were an important part of native people's diet and way of life on the plains. Lack of food was common in reservations. Illness spread quickly through the crowded communities. Many native people resisted being forced to reservations. Black people were sent to west to fight them. Black people were also sent to protect white settlers because the West was so vast. It was hard to enforce laws as more white settlers arrived. Thieves stole cattle and horses, so they also robbed banks and stagecoaches that they brought important supplies and mail. Black soldiers were sent to protect settlers and stagecoaches from these thieves. Gaining a reputation. Black soldiers were given the most dangerous duties. They traveled many miles to find water, build roads, and map lands unexplored by white settlers. They experienced hot summers and freezing cold winters. They were given old horses and poor supplies. They also experienced deadly violence from white settlers that they were sent to protect. Still, the troops they did their duties well. They were known to be hardworking and talented. It was native people they fought, possibly the Chi, who gave them the name Buffalo Soldiers. Many people believe soldiers were given a name because they were brave in battle, like the buffalo. There is no proof to support this law, and many native leaders today don't agree with this belief. Coffee Williams. Coffee Williams was the only woman known to serve as a Buffalo soldier. She joined 38th Infantry Regiment in 1866. Because women weren't allowed to serve as soldiers at that time, she disguised herself as a man and went by the name William Carvey. William served for nearly 2 years until she discharged in 1868, when a doctor discovered during a hospital visit that she was a woman. Later served. Buffalo soldiers served in the West fought throughout the wars between the army and native peoples. As wars in the West came in an end, many black soldiers were sent to fight the Spanish-American War in 1898. Between 1870 and 1900. 23 Buffalo soldiers earned Medals of Honor. The Medal of Honor is the highest award a U.S. soldier can earn. After the war, many Buffalo soldiers went to National Park Rangers. They oversaw building of roads and trails, fought for forest fires, and stopped people from hunting animals. Buffalo soldiers on bikes. In the 1890s, the army wanted to see if bicycles could replace horses since bikes were cheaper and easier to care for. A Buffalo soldiers rode 1,900 miles from Montana to St. Louis, Missouri. They crossed mountains, rivers, and shifting sand hills, but still traveled about 50 miles a day. Before long, though, bikes were replaced with motorcycles. In spite of many success of Buffalo soldiers, black soldiers continued to suffer discrimination. In 1906, white people in small Texas towns accused Buffalo soldiers of killing one white man, of hurting another. There was no proof they did it, but 167 black soldiers were forced to leave the army. Anyway, in 1972, the soldiers were finally found in connect with the crime. During World War I, black soldiers weren't allowed to fight beside white U.S. soldiers in Europe. Instead, they were placed under command of French army. By the time the United States entered World War II in 1941, the government known as the Buffalo Soldiers had been recognized. The army broke up the last all-black government in 1951. Troops joined white governments where they continued to face racism. Notable Buffalo soldiers: S.T. Henry O. Flipper was the first black graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. He was the first black officer to command black soldiers. St. John Hanks Alexander became commander of the 19th Cavalry in 1887. At the time, he was only black officer in the army commissioned to lead troops in combat. Charles Young was one commanding officer of 9th Cavalry in 1903. He became the first black National Park superintendent. Black soldiers have fought in every important war in American history. However, the Buffalo Soldiers of the 9th and 10th Cavalries are perhaps the best known. People have written books, movies, television shows, and even songs about them. People have also built museums and laboratories in their honor. Although they experienced dismission within and outside the army, Buffalo soldiers were the least likely soldiers to desert their governments. They showed bravery in the face of fierce combat, deadly violence, and difficult living conditions. Their service is an important part of United States history.